It's there, hidden in whispered comments when you leave a store. It hangs in the air when you try on that denim skirt that seemed like a good idea on the rack. It's in the pitying looks from the saleswoman when you hold that floral sweatsuit. You might not hear it out loud, but you can feel it like a ghostly presence in fitting rooms. It's a word so powerful it can make a 40-year-old woman completely change her wardrobe in seconds. Matronly. That's exactly the word I heard a saleswoman murmur to another when I was in a department store last week. Not about me, thank heavens. I was wearing a navy blue silk midi dress I'd bought in a spectacular sale, but about a lady who was trying on a beige tweed suit with a skirt that seemed designed specifically to hide any evidence of feminine form. "It looks very matronly on her," whispered the saleswoman, not knowing I was listening. And the worst part? She was absolutely right. Before you continue watching, press the subscribe button, activate the bell, and leave your like. Each interaction not only helps me create more content to transform your elegance into something profitable, but also forms our community of women who refuse to yield to the obvious and vulgar. This community is a refuge for women like you and me, who value elegance without ever confusing it with boredom or excessive formality. I'm Carol, your witty 39-year-old friend who isn't afraid to tell truths that no one else dares, even when those truths make some people wrinkle their noses. Just yesterday, I was flipping through April's Vogue. Yes, I still prefer physical magazines that I can mark and fold, despite my iPad always being with me, and came across an article on how to age with style. I was fascinated by how the entire text contorted itself in elaborate euphemisms, carefully avoiding the word matronly, as if it were an unspeakable swear word in good society. Evolve your style. Adapt your wardrobe to your new phase. Refine your choices to reflect your wisdom. All these are elegant ways of saying, for God's sake, don't look matronly. Meanwhile, in the same magazine, Jennifer Lopez at 55 dazzled in a monochromatic outfit that many 30-year-old women would hesitate to wear. Not because it was vulgar, because it wasn't, but because it required a confidence that many of us lost somewhere between the bills and responsibilities of adult life. Have you noticed how certain celebrities simply disappear from the spotlight after 40? Or worse, they continue appearing, but in a way that makes you wonder, who let her leave the house like that? While others, like Jennifer Aniston or Cate Blanchett, seem to become more elegant each year. Aniston passed 50 a good while ago, and her style isn't just current, it's a reference. And don't come at me with that worn-out argument. Oh, but she has money, a personal stylist, and access to the best brands. Of course she does, but she also had those things at 30, and yet her style wasn't as refined then as it is today. The difference isn't in jeans, money, or plastic surgeries. It's in the deep understanding that elegance is a mindset, not a postal code or a number on a clothing tag. It's in the conscious refusal to accept that society determines how you should dress at your age. It's in the wisdom of knowing what to avoid, specifically, everything that evokes the terrible M word. I was watching an episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills the other day. Yes, sometimes I enjoy a bit of TV drama to relax after a stressful day. It's my guilty pleasure, and I have no regrets. And I noticed the glaring contrast between the women on the show. All rich, all with access to the same resources, all close in age, but with drastically different aesthetic results. I observed one lady in particular, I won't name names because I'm too elegant for that, whose wardrobe seemed to have been assembled by a committee of well-intentioned but completely outdated grandmothers. High-waisted pants up to her neck, blouses with excessive ruffles, prints that would make Victorian wallpaper look minimalist. Money clearly wasn't the problem, since the pieces were from very expensive brands. The problem? She had succumbed to luxury matronly, the expensive but equally aging version of the problem we're discussing. Last week, while having my breakfast, I received a desperate message from a channel follower. She was in total panic, the kind that only a style crisis can provoke. "Carol," the message said, "help! I just bought a long, straight denim skirt, you know? I thought it would look elegant for work. My 15-year-old daughter looked at me and said, in the most natural way, 'Mom, you look like Grandma in that skirt.' I'm devastated. I'm 42. What do I do?" I had to bite my tongue not to laugh, not at her situation, which was genuinely traumatic, but at the brutal honesty that only teenagers can have. 15 years old, and she identified with surgical precision the biggest warning sign of the matronly wardrobe, the dreaded long, straight denim skirt, one that is neither good jeans nor a good skirt, just a hybrid piece that doesn't fulfill either function well. That piece isn't just a clothing item, it's practically a certificate of surrender to elegance. It's as if you were announcing to the world, I've given up trying to look interesting, now I just want something that covers my legs and doesn't need ironing. I responded immediately, of course, first because I'm a good virtual friend, and second because I consider style emergencies as serious as any other crisis. Return that skirt now. Don't go home. Go directly from the store to the return desk. And thank your daughter for her merciless sincerity. She just saved you from months of photos that would make you question your life choices. You know that iconic scene in Sex and the City where Carrie Bradshaw says she bought Vogue instead of dinner because she felt the magazine fed her more? Well, if the edition had a long, straight denim skirt on the cover, I guarantee she would have gone hungry that day. Not even Carrie Bradshaw, the most optimistic fashionista on television, could find a positive angle for this piece. But here's the plot twist that many women don't realize, and that we need to discuss openly. Avoiding looking matronly does not, under any circumstances, mean dressing like a teenager or succumbing to vulgarity. That's as serious a mistake as matronly itself. It's the pendulum swinging violently to the other extreme, equally problematic. Let's be honest, nothing screams insecure about age louder than a 45-year-old woman trying to dress exactly like her 18-year-old daughter. That's not youth, it's desperation. And desperation, darling, has never been and will never be in fashion. Observe Nicole Kidman, for example. At 58, she's not wearing miniskirts and cropped tops to maintain her relevance and elegance. She's not showing her abdomen at every opportunity or trying to compete with women 30 years younger. Instead, she embraced a sophisticated style that is undeniably contemporary without being juvenile, elegant without being outdated, sensual without being vulgar. She understands the secret: timeless refinement with contemporary touches. This delicate balance is the holy grail of elegance after 40. It's what separates women who look uncomfortably youthful from those who are timelessly elegant. It's the difference between trying to erase your age and celebrating your current moment. Actress Julia Louis-Dreyfus once said in an interview with Vanity Fair, "I'm comfortable in my skin, but that doesn't mean I want to look too comfortable in my clothes." That phrase should be framed and hung in the closet of every woman who has passed 40. Internal comfort, yes. External appearance of someone who gave up on life? Never. Recently, I went to a book launch event. I love reading, especially novels that transport me to other places while I'm comfortable in my bed. After lunch, of course, because who doesn't love a nap? Only soulless people, in my humble opinion. The book was about the evolution of women's fashion through the decades, a subject that obviously interests me deeply. While observing the diverse audience, my eyes were drawn to a lady who had clearly invested considerable time and money in her appearance. Hair perfectly dyed in a shade of blonde that must have cost the GDP of a small country. Impeccable makeup applied with a surgeon's precision. Fine jewelry that sparkled discreetly under the auditorium lights. But then my gaze descended to her outfit, and I almost choked on the sparkling wine I was drinking. She was wearing a sweatsuit decorated with rhinestones and beads. I'm not talking about a modern, well-cut piece that was merely inspired by sweatshirts. I'm talking about real, genuine sweatshirt material, thick cotton with elastic at the cuffs and waist. And to complete the look, elastic waistband pants of the same fabric and print. The outfit screamed, "I bought this at the mall in 1998 and cherished it all these years as a memento of my visit to Branson, Missouri." The rhinestones formed small butterflies that seemed about to take flight, taking with them any chance of elegance. I wanted to hug her and gently say, "Darling, you have a beautiful face, wonderful hair, and clearly care about your appearance. Why then are you wearing something that looks like a glorified pajama? We're in 2025, not 1995. But as the elegant woman I am, most days, at least, I smiled politely while mentally filing that look in the folder I keep in my brain titled, "Never ever under any circumstances, not even if it's the last outfit on earth and I'm about to meet George Clooney." You know who never gave in to matronly? Meryl Streep. Observe how she dresses in her 70s. Elegant, sophisticated, contemporary, without seeming like she's trying to be young. In The Devil Wears Prada 2. Okay, that movie doesn't exist, but it should. She would demonstrate how a woman can be powerful, respected, and absolutely elegant without looking like she stole her grandmother's clothes. Helen Mirren is another perfect example. At 80, she continues to be a style reference. Why? Because she understands the 3 matronly traps that every woman must avoid at all costs. First, ill-fitting clothes. A blazer with dropped shoulders, pants with dragging hems, a blouse that bubbles at the back. All this sends the message, I don't care enough to make an adjustment. Second, neglecting proper underwear. Call me old-fashioned, but nothing, absolutely nothing, screams matronly like that silhouette where everything is in the wrong place because the foundation is incorrect. Bras where breasts overflow at the top, shapewear that creates new folds instead of smoothing existing ones, underwear that shows lines under tight clothes. All these are mistakes that can transform even the most chic dress into something worthy of a before in a makeover show. Third, anachronistic combinations that seem to have come from different decades. Black tights with jeans. It's like putting tomato sauce on ice cream. It simply doesn't work. Orthopedic shoes with elegant dresses. A formal bag with sportswear. These contrasts aren't stylish. They're confusing and convey a message that you don't understand the rules of the game. Or worse, that you're no longer interested in playing it. Oh, I almost forgot. If you're planning to travel and who isn't dreaming of an escape after so much time at home and want to ensure your elegance crosses borders without losing its essence, I have something special for you. I created an ebook called Be Elegant While Traveling: Global Etiquette for the Sophisticated Traveler that will help you avoid cultural faux pas and dress appropriately at any destination. You know that American tourist in Paris wearing huge white sneakers, denim shorts, and a fanny pack? Don't be her. The link to the ebook is in the first pinned comment below. It's my gift to you who wants to elevate your traveler status from obvious tourist to possibly very elegant local. When I was younger, I confess I committed the inverse sin of matronly. I tried to be too young, even vulgar. In college, looking back, I wore impossible heels with jeans, and when my feet started to hurt after hours at a party, I simply took off my shoes and walked barefoot. I thought that was rebellious and sexy. Spoiler, it wasn't. It was just inelegant and, honestly, unhygienic. As Proverbs 31:30 says, "Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised." Not that I'm here to preach. We know that discussions about religion are rarely elegant in social contexts, but there is profound wisdom in these ancient words. External beauty is transitory, but character, dignity, inner elegance, these are values that transcend fashions and ages. Actress Emma Thompson said something similar in a recent interview. There's a freedom in aging, in no longer needing to be seen as attractive in the conventional sense. Now I can be interesting, which is infinitely more valuable. And isn't that what we all want? To be interesting, memorable, not just decorative? Once during the 3 years I spent teaching at university, an experience that, honestly, I have no desire to repeat, despite loving to teach. A student approached me after class with a question that seemed innocent but was deeply revealing. "Professor Carroll," she said, adjusting her oversized t-shirt over worn leggings, "why do you always come so dressed up to teach? Nobody here cares about that." I looked at her for a moment, considering whether to give the easy answer or the true one. I opted for the second, because I respect you enough to present myself in the best possible way for each class. What I didn't add, but thought intensely, was, and because I respect myself enough not to let my surroundings determine my standards. This student showed up to the next class wearing a well-pressed shirt and jeans without tears, a small victory that made me smile internally. Years later, she found me in a cafe and thanked me. That brief conversation had changed her perspective on how to present herself professionally. Elegance isn't about money. It never was and never will be. I'm not rich, yet, but I know how to appreciate luxury and good things. True elegance is about self-care, attention to detail, and, most importantly, self-knowledge. It's understanding that you can have a capsule wardrobe of 20 pieces bought from accessible stores that look much more sophisticated than a closet full of expensive items, without personality or coherence. I know sometimes I seem obsessed with fashion, as if it were superficial or frivolous. But in truth, I'm obsessed with the message we send to the world and, more importantly, to ourselves every time we choose what to wear. Because, like it or not, our clothes speak for us before we even open our mouths. Comedian and writer Tina Fey once said something I love: "If you want to see change in the world, be that change." And I would add, start with your underwear. Okay. She didn't exactly say the last part, but she could have, because everything starts there. in the foundations, in the structures that nobody sees but that support everything else. Good lingerie isn't about seduction. It's about self-respect. It's about knowing that you are completely appropriate from head to toe. Even if no one but you knows what's under that dress or that blouse, it's like the foundation of a house. Invisible, but absolutely essential. The worst part of matronly, and this is something many fashion magazines don't have the courage to say, isn't looking older. It's looking like you've given up, like you've thrown in the towel, like you no longer care about your own image. And I know you care, darling, because you're here watching this video, aren't you? So it's time to be honest. That yo-yo effect I mentioned before, I've lived with it since childhood. I've been all possible sizes. I have a personal trainer not because I love exercise. Heavens, how I hate it. But because I love food and don't want to give up that pleasure. And look, my body is mid-size, as they say today. I'm not a runway model and never will be. But that doesn't mean I can't be elegant, sophisticated, and yes, sexy in my own way. And now, let's get to what really matters. How to avoid falling into this trap of 40 plus without needing to spend a fortune or become a slave to trends. This is the secret that transformed my life and can transform yours too. The answer is simpler than you imagine, but it will require a change in mindset. It's not about following rigid rules or trying to keep up with every trend that appears in Vogue. It's about understanding timeless principles. And the first and most fundamental of these principles is suitability. Suitability has nothing to do with age. It has to do with what works for you, your body, your life, your personality. Actress Diane Keaton, for example, developed a completely personal style that uniquely blends masculine and feminine elements. She never surrendered to what would be suitable for her age. She defined what is suitable for her, period. When I woke up today, I looked at Canella, my sister's Yorkshire. Yes, I confess I wasn't a fan of dogs until I met this ball of fur that completely won me over, and thought, even this little dog instinctively understands the importance of presenting oneself well. Canella never goes out for a walk without being perfectly groomed, with her shiny coat and her bow matching her collar. And look, she has 4 paws and fur all over. If a little dog can maintain a standard of presentation, why would we? Intelligent, accomplished women with access to information and resources accept less from ourselves. I'm not saying you need to wake up with makeup on or sleep in high heels. That would be ridiculous and, frankly, harmful to health. I'm saying there's a glorious middle ground between total neglect and empty obsession with appearance. Once, I was lying on my bed, that sacred hour after lunch that I reserve for myself, when I can read or simply relax, flipping through an old magazine and came across an article about Madonna at 60. The comments beside the photos left me indignant. Critics said she should address for her age and accept aging with more dignity. How absurd! Madonna built an entire career challenging conventions and never dressed to please anyone but herself. And that's why, love or hate her style, she never, ever looked matronly. Look at Jane Fonda at 87. Yes, 87. Still wearing vibrant colors, structured silhouettes, and looking absolutely stunning. Or Iris Apfel, who at 103 continues to be a singular and unmistakable style icon. These women understood something fundamental. Aging is inevitable, but becoming matronly is a choice. The word matronly carries enormous weight because deep down, it's not about clothes. It's about fear. It represents our deepest fears as women, of being invisible in a society that values youth, of becoming irrelevant when our bodies change, of being forgotten when we no longer meet conventional beauty standards. But here's the powerful truth I discovered after years studying elegance. True style is never invisible. It may be subtle, it may be discreet, it may not be screaming for attention, but it is always noticed. I remember being in a luxury restaurant last year, one of those places where you spend more on dinner than you would on a good dress, but the experience is worth every penny. A lady entered. She must have been in her 70s, wearing a simple outfit in shades of gray. Nothing extravagant, nothing flashy. But the way those pieces were perfectly fitted to her body, how the accessories were precise, and how she carried herself with quiet confidence, all eyes turned to her. Not because of her youth or conventional beauty, but because of her undeniable presence. I have an honest question for you. When was the last time you looked at your wardrobe with truly critical eyes? Not to follow trends or compare with what your friends are wearing, but to honestly assess whether your clothes are serving you or just taking up space, whether they're expressing who you are today or preserving a version of the past that no longer exists. Last month, while organizing my closet, yes, I'm organized with my clothes, but anyone who saw my work desk would laugh at that claim, I did this rigorous exercise. And I discovered something frightening. About 40% of my wardrobe consisted of pieces I kept just in case or because one day I'll lose those stubborn few pounds. Dresses I hadn't worn in 3 years. Pants that pinched me in places no woman needs to feel pinched. Blouses I bought because they were on sale, not because they matched my style. These pieces not only occupied precious physical space, but also occupied mental space. Every time I opened the closet, they reminded me of promises I hadn't kept to myself. And remember, profitable elegance isn't about spending more. It's about investing better. In yourself, in your image, in the message you send to the world. If this video helped you identify some matronly pieces in your closet, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive notifications. Each interaction helps our channel grow and bring these messages of authentic elegance to more women. And more importantly, share this video with that friend who urgently needs to hear these truths, but whom no one has the courage to tell directly. Sometimes it's easier to hear advice from a stranger on the internet than from a best friend who's trying to spare your feelings. I have a secret to tell you. I spent years of my life trying to please others with my fashion choices, trying to be appropriate, suitable, within standards. It was only when I decided to wear what made me feel good, within the limits of elegance, of course, because vulgarity was never and will never be an option for me, that I began to receive sincere compliments and, more importantly, to feel confident regardless of others' opinions. As Coco Chanel said, a woman who revolutionized women's fashion and continued to be a style icon until the end of her life, elegance is not standing out, but being remembered. Do you want to be remembered for the matronly clothes you wore or for the striking and elegant presence you emanated? The choice, my dear, is entirely yours, and I know you'll choose to be unforgettable. See you in the next video, where we'll talk about, well, you'll only find out if you're subscribed to the channel. Until next time, and remember, elegance is a state of mind, not a dress code, and the word matronly, it only has power over you if you allow it.